Hey, what's up, everyone? You made it to another episode of Just in the Nick of Crime. It is late tonight. It is about 10:37 on Monday, May 19th, Eastern Time. As you all know, you did not get into the or middle of the day updates today because I am on vacation. So you guys are getting into the day, but it is my birthday. And I came down to the business center at the hotel, put all this together so that we could do this for you guys tonight. Because it is important. I enjoy doing it. And let's be real. I'm being real honest with you guys. If I don't do this, I don't get paid by the companies, the street, YouTube, TikTok, all them. So here we are, because money's always a fun thing, right? So a lot happened today. I was keeping up with the updates. Special thanks to my mod, Lacey, who has been helping to pull some of the information for me to save me a little bit of time. And everybody who is coming in, thank you guys for the birthday wishes. I appreciate that. Now, if you are on TikTok, make sure to hit that follow button. Make sure to tap that screen. See if we get that to 10,000 as quickly as we possibly can. At the same time, TikTok fam, if you want to jump over to YouTube at some point, you might possibly want to consider doing that. We do have some photos tonight of Cassie's injuries and some of the things that were taken during the raids that we're going to show over there. So trigger warning on all of that. And let's just kind of get into it. Everybody, thank you guys so much. So let's just jump. Oh, real quick. Yeah, got to do this. Follow on Substack too if you don't already. These recaps do go there as well. I guess it'll be a full end of the day recap today. My wife was like, did you find a business center? I did find the business center. I did, and they let me in. It was locked. And they said, you could come in here for what I was doing. I said, look, I was like, I don't think the rest of your people around here want to hear me talking about Diddy around their kids and the horrible things that he is accused of doing. And they're like, yeah, we'll put you in the business center. I was like, all right, sounds like a plan. So this very sterile white room behind me. Anyways, let's just jump right into it, shall we? So as you all know, Diddy's argues have lawyered that he is in fact guilty of domestic. By the way, Instagram, you guys are there too. Forgot about y'all. Sorry about y'all. Sorry about that. Thank you guys for being here too. You guys stay right where you are. Make sure to hit that follow button. Anyways, so Diddy's lawyers, as you guys know, are arguing that he is very likely guilty of domestic violence, which he is, but he is not charged with domestic violence. He is charged with trafficking and racketeering, and of which they're saying he is not guilty of. He is innocent of. That is what they're saying. Now, to let you kind of know what we're going to talk about today, Dawn Richard resumed her testimony today. She started on Friday late in the afternoon. Jury entered after a delay due to a late juror. Court did take a break after Dawn Richard finished. Proceedings continue with more witnesses lined up, including one of Diddy's assistants, which that gets pretty good. And then a Homeland Security agent testified Friday about a hotel room search evidence, which is baby oil, lubricant, ketamine, MDMA, and a bottle of clonazepam, which was under the person who got it, Frank Black, which is one of Diddy's aliases. So let's kind of just give you a real quick recap of really super quick recap of what happened last week. You all know that Cassie spent 4 days on the witness stand last week, right? She testified that she wanted a loving relationship with Sean Combs during their nearly 11 years together, but was instead subjected to weekly substance-fueled freak-offs with male workers that left her too exhausted and damaged to pursue her music career. She also testified last week that although she continued to go to the recording studio and work on songs, Sean Combs refused to release them. Bad Boy Records did sign Cassie to a 10-year album deal in 2006, but only released one album from that deal, which is the self-titled Cassie that came out the same year in 2006, which, by the way, guys, had some bops on it. And I'm going to encourage you, if you want to support Cassie, go stream her music. That's a great way that you can kind of show support and solidarity, and I'm sure she would appreciate it. Plus, she did have some good songs, just saying. And then they started dating in 2007 and then broke up for good in 2018. So that kind of gives you a brief catch up of what we have here. And then I say catch up, which is probably a bad word because we're going to be talking about Skillet's eggs and violence today, right now. So Dawn testified that somebody asked if that was giving Diddy money if he did that. No, Diddy ended up giving all of his artists their rights to their own music back a couple years ago. Benevolent of him. So no, you can safely listen to her music and assume that Diddy won't get that money. If you listen to Diddy stuff that he's on, then he will probably get a piece of that, unless it is missing you, because every bit of that goes to Sting. So Dawn testified that she saw Diddy attack Cassie in 2009 at his home in California. She said that Combs came downstairs, screaming, belligerent, asking where his food was, and then proceeded to, ready for this, guys? Proceeded to hit Cassie over the head, kicked her and beat her to the ground in front of them. She said the Combs tried to hit her over the head, Cassie over the head, with a skillet, a metal iron skillet, but she was able to deflect it. On Friday, Dawn Richard testified that she saw Combs attempting to strike Cassie with the skillet, but Ventura ducked and fell to the floor into the fetal position. In Cross, they had Nicole Westmoreland up. She pressed Richard on how her story of the kitchen incident has changed over time. She said in a 2024 demand letter from her lawyers, Richard's team said that she had only heard the frying pan hit the wall, but didn't witness the incident. Richard testified that she wasn't aware of what claims her lawyers made on her behalf. In an October 24 interview with prosecutors, Richard reportedly said Combs actually struck Ventura with the frying pan. In another interview with prosecutors, she reportedly said Combs threw the eggs at Ventura, not the skillet. Westmoreland said, "You would agree with me that as time progresses, your story changes." And Richard replied, "Yes," adding that the events were long ago and she's remembering more over time, which I think is a really great save on that. The defense also challenged Richard's testimony about what Diddy said the next day after the skillet incident, because originally she testified that Diddy brought her and artist Kalina Harper into the studio, locked the door, and told them that it was in their best interest not to say anything. He said, quote, "Where he comes from, people go missing." Where he comes from, people go missing. Sounds like a threat to me, guys. Defense referenced documents from several of Dawn's meetings with prosecutors that didn't include the people going missing line. Richard said that she didn't recall leaving that out, but stood by her claim. She also then talked more about violence against Cassie. She testified that she saw Diddy attack Cassie multiple times. She said Diddy tried to hit her over the head with the skillet, but Cassie was able to deflect it. She said she saw Combs punch Cassie in the face with a closed fist and in the stomach during an argument at a restaurant. She often saw Cassie with bruises on her face, eyes, lip, arms, and knees. And again, we will be showing some of these photos here in a little bit. So if you are on YouTube or Instagram, you will be able to see them. If you are on TikTok, you won't unless you jump over to one of those. But if not, you can just stay here and listen to what we talk about. Richard testified that Combs would punch her, choke her, drag her, slap her in the mouth, kick her, and punch her in the stomach. Sometimes it happened when Cassie spoke up for herself. Sometimes it was random. She said, quote, "We wouldn't even know where it came from," end quote. She also said that Combs once dragged Cassie by the hair upstairs after trying to hit her with a skillet. Richard said Combs and Cassie were once arguing in the car after he punched her in a restaurant. Cassie was embarrassed. He grabbed her by the neck and popped her, slapped her in the mouth, telling her to shut up, and security did not intervene. She then talked more about threats and intimidation. Again, she talked about the fact that Richard talked about the fact that her and another person, Kalina, were told that they would go missing if they spoke out. And then Assistant U.S. Attorney Mitzi Steiner, who's on the prosecution, asked, "What does that mean?" And Richard replied with, "That we could die." Richard also testified that Combs once told her that she was here to work, not interfere in his relationship, or else we would pay for it. So she stopped commenting on the relationship for her own safety. Let me give you a little more background on that, guys, because I do know a little bit more than what's in my notes here. So in that particular situation, after Dawn witnessed what Cassie was going through, she was having conversation with Cassie, telling Cassie that you need to leave this person. You need to leave Sean Diddy Combs. And apparently he found out about it. I don't know how. They didn't say that. But when he did find out, he said that she was there to work and not interfere in their relationship, or else they would pay for it. So because she was scared of him, terrified of him, she stopped commenting on the relationship. That's what she did. She also testified that during a 2010 dinner with celebrities like Usher, Neo, and Jimmy Iovine, that Combs punched Cassie in the stomach. Cassie immediately bent over and told her bent over and he told her to leave. I could see him point out, and she went out. Afterward in the car, he slapped her again in the mouth. So again, Usher and Neo is there now. Neo's ex is calling him Diddy Jr. and like saying like, why don't you tell him what really happened, Diddy Jr.? So that's been kind of an interesting little thing that we need to kind of stay up on and see what happens with that. Cassie used makeup to cover her injuries. She used makeup, clothing, sunglasses to cover up the injuries, the wounds, the bruises, etc. She said in one instance, after Combs punched her, she and other women wore sunglasses in public in solidarity with Cassie. Dawn also talked about Combs controlling Cassie's career, saying that she supported Cassie's claim that Combs sabotaged her music career. Combs told Cassie he owned her, quote unquote, and that, quote, it would come when he said it would come. Richard even said Combs would get angry, even violent, when she and others offered to help Cassie write songs. It's a lot of control, guys. It's a lot of control. And again, this is why Cassie's testimony and Dawn's testimony all kind of start to lay that groundwork in what's going on here, because you're trying to go, using fear and things like that, racketeering, sort of thing. So this is laying the groundwork that he used fear to intimidate is one of the tactics to intimidate people, including people trying to help Cassie. That's, we still have some time left on this, but they have a long road to go. But I feel like this is what we're getting towards with this groundwork. Now, Richard also testified that she would see Combs taking substances frequently, including weed, ketamine, and the white powdery stuff. And the substances were kept in a Louis Vuitton toiletry bag. She testified that she saw Combs' assistant paying One Stop. By the way, One Stop, real quick, is the name of Diddy's, or the dealer. Apparently, this guy had everything you needed if you, as a dealer would, right? He had the weed, he had the ketamine, he had MDMA, he had the white powder stuff. Apparently, he also had birth control. Anyways, they called him One Stop, which, by the way, is a phenomenal name for, a dealer, because he's the one stop you need. Nevertheless, she said that she saw Combs' assistant pay One Stop for these substances, despite previously telling prosecutors she hadn't seen a payment. She also said that she would see Combs frequently carrying a firearm on his lower back. And apparently that was also true of a lot of his security and bodyguards, things like that. They would have it kind of on the back here, like back of the waistband of the pants. So for career and legal claims, Richard was in both Danity Kane and Diddy Dirty Money, which was two bands that he had. She confirmed Combs dismantled both groups and that her solo career didn't reach the same success afterwards. The defense attorney, Nicole Westmoreland, asked if she filed a lawsuit for more, for money, and Richard replied, no, but I wanted to be compensated for the work I put forth. She testified that she asked Combs to sign her as a solo artist before leaving in 2011, and he declined. She admitted that she reached out to him multiple times after their falling out, including in 2020, to collaborate. Then it continues on into cross-exam and disputes. And the defense pressed her on some inconsistencies again on the Skillet incident, saying that 2024, her demand letter, her lawyers said that she didn't witness that, to which she responded with, I don't know what claims my lawyers wrote on my behalf, because oftentimes your lawyers will draft that for you. And then talked about how in another situation, she said that she saw him throw eggs at Cassie. In another, she said he struck her with the pan. So, and she said on the stand again that over time she is remembering more and more that's going on as all the stuff is coming out. So, defense also challenged her timeline of when she first mentioned Combs said people go missing. So, Richard said seeing Cassie speak up motivated her to do the same. She said, quote, I saw Cassie finally take a stand and tell the truth. So she filed a civil lawsuit, which is currently pending. Entertainment attorney Lisa Bonner called Richard a, quote, very credible witness, end quote. Trial attorney Andrew Lewis and said Richard's testimony could be, quote, could be incredibly impactful in the broader RICO context, noting the prosecution's attempt to show that this was not an isolated case. Now, I'm going to bring up some pictures here. So if you have not seen photos yet, or you want to see these photos, this is where you're going to be able to do this, okay? It's going to be right here. If you're on Instagram or YouTube, stay right where you are. If you are on TikTok, you can stay there, but you won't see the pictures unless you jump over to one of those. I would recommend YouTube, but that is just me. So this right here is the sketch of Kerry Morgan. Now, this is not the ones that we're going to really get into, but this is a good one to have you guys come over on while we're talking, okay? So then we're going to get into some of what came out of the search for, and Cassie's injuries as well. We're going to see those here in a few minutes. So this is Kerry Morgan, or a sketch of Kerry Morgan. She is Cassie's former best friend, and she was called to the stand today as a witness. She first met Cassie in 2001 and actually lived with her until 2004. She testified that Cassie did not use substances or drink in the early years. She said they stopped speaking in 2018 after Combs assaulted her. Morgan said she's testifying under subpoena and doesn't want to be involved. She said, quote, "I have moved on with my life away from all these people and the problems." All right. I want you to don't want to stop for that a second. So Kerry is Cassie's former best friend. She is not there to do the Lord's work, so to speak, and help put Diddy away. She said she doesn't want anything to do with this, but since she was subpoenaed, she is there. And because basically she has to be there. But she's moved on. So the judge allowed Morgan to testify that Cassie once told her she was scared of Combs and couldn't leave him because he controlled her career. She said, quote, "She was not supportive of me after Sean assaulted me." That's what Morgan said about Cassie. She told the time about how Diddy allegedly threw a wooden hanger at her head, causing a concussion. More than that, following the alleged assault at Cassie's house in 2018. Morgan said Cassie told her she was milking the incident and asked her to sign a non-disclosure agreement, an NDA, which Diddy loves NDAs. I have a feeling that was probably Diddy talking, but that's, neither here nor there. She goes, "I draw my line at physical abuse." So has also not, I draw my line at physical abuse. She also has not reached out to me, which is why they've not rekindled their friendship. Then after Kerry came David James, and David's very well. Actually, before I get to David James, who's Diddy's former assistant, I think that Kerry coming here saying that she didn't want to testify to this at all, but did it anyways because she was under subpoena, I think that adds a lot of credibility, in my opinion, to her testimony and trying to show this pattern, because she doesn't want to be here in the first place. She doesn't have a friendship with these people. She's cut ties with these people years ago. 2015, 7 years ago. She doesn't want anything to do with it, but here she is, right? So anyways, I digress. So next up, and I'm going to leave Kerry's picture up here for a moment because we're going to get to the stuff that you guys want to see here in a second. But David James was one of the assistants who facilitated the alleged freak-offs. David James worked as a personal assistant for Diddy from May of 2007 to May of 2009. The court heard that today. Start looking at my notes. I didn't get a chance to put them together as much as I usually do when I'm at home and have dual screens and everything. Diddy's former assistant told the court he applied to work for him because he wanted a career in fashion. James was emotional, crying as he described his first days working for Diddy. He said one of the executives at Bad Boy Entertainment told him his job was to please the mogul. I remember sitting at her desk, and there was a picture of Mr. Combs on the wall. She pointed to the wall and said, "This is Mr. Combs' kingdom. We are all here to serve him." It went on to say that Mr. Combs, this is all quotes right here. "Mr. Combs didn't like that we talked to Cassie. Oftentimes we pay for it. If you did this or something else bad, if you do this or else, something bad will happen to you." Well, that was the message he said they would get from Diddy. It was always a threat. If you didn't stay in line, there was consequences. James claimed that Diddy would publicly humiliate Cassie, telling her that he owned her. He said he also witnessed Diddy beating Cassie and calling her names. James said that an associate of Diddy also once spoke to him about talking to Cassie. They said, "If it gets dark and lonely if you don't listen." Mr. Combs said this too. You need to listen to him. This was stated by him and Mr. Combs. "I have seen and witnessed brutality in a way I had to believe. I've seen and witnessed brutality in a way that I had to believe if this person, that was supposedly what he did to her, what he would do to an employee. I imagine it would have been worse than that." Basically what he's saying is witnessing what he has seen, that to Cassie, somebody who he is supposed to love, seeing all of that, what he could do to an employee is worse. That's what he believes. And again, this shows him using his business to intimidate. This is part of this whole, let's get this up to those RICO racketeering charges. And it's all kind of you're starting to see how it's going to come together, in my opinion. So real quick, before I get to the photos, one other thing to share with y'all real quick, and then I'll put these back up. Oh, there's a little preview. Didn't mean to give that to y'all yet. All right. So Gina, everybody knows. Well, Gina is the mother of his youngest kid. It's Huna. I don't know if I'm saying it right. Huyna. She was not in the trial today, but she actually did have an article come out on page 6. So I figured it was worth sharing with you because again, it shows a pattern, right? So she is the mother of his youngest child, and she said, "quote." Hey, you can Google the story if you want. Just Google her name, and you can see it more in detail. But he stomped on my stomach really hard, like he took the wind out of my breath. I couldn't breathe. He kept hitting me. I was pleading to him, "Can you just stop? I can't breathe." According to her, Diddy then began to pull at her hair and punch her repeatedly in the back of her head. She added that she began fighting back after she had had enough of his shit. Everywhere elsewhere, she claimed that Diddy had punched her in the head at other times as her hair would cover the signs of injuries. He was mentally, emotionally, and physically abusing me. He would always compare me to Cassie and tell me that I'm the bad one. She's a good one. Gina also claimed that everyone in Diddy's circle allowed him to allegedly abuse her multiple times. So I want to talk about this real quick. Number one, she described the same type of abuse that Cassie went through. The same type of abuse. She is the mother of one of his children. The other thing I want to bring up is, okay, because we kind of skimmed over it, is the fact that he is hitting these women in the back of their heads, pulling their hair, and it's right because that is something that will not leave a visible mark like some of the other things. It seems to me that as he's kind of gone down this path over the years, he's been able to hone this skill of beating women, if you want to call it that, this horrific thing that he does. And now he's able to kind of hide the scars and the evidence of what he's done to these people. So hitting them in the back of their head, pulling their hair, you're not going to see the bruises and everything that you would see otherwise. It's like he's learned to make this a better skill for him so he doesn't get in trouble, it's weird. Okay, now I'm gonna get into some pictures for you guys. So trigger warning. This is Cassie with a busted lip. We'll start here. She said, quote, this is when she was in court. This is we're getting to see it now. She said, quote, "That's me, a selfie of me with a fat lip." This is what she replied when she was asked about the photo entered as evidence. The image taken after Diddy assaulted her in the hallway of that LA hotel was released to the public today, Monday. She said she took it while in an Uber while on her way home following that filmed assault. She said she texted Diddy saying, "I have a premiere for the biggest thing I've ever done in my life on Monday. You are sick for thinking it's okay to do what you've done. Please stay away from me." He then reportedly claimed that he was getting arrested, called about it, but lied. She said her then best friend, which was Kerry Morgan, who testified earlier today, became upset when she saw her face and called police. Cassie said she chose not to report who had assaulted her when the police showed up because she wanted to protect Diddy, which is very, very common with abuse victims. In that moment, she said, "I didn't want to hurt him that way, just too much going on. A lot for me in that moment. I wasn't ready." So let me show you the other couple pictures, and we're going to get to everything else that was there. So this is that one. This is her. You can see on her thigh showing, because again, if you're on TikTok, you won't see this. Instagram and YouTube, you can jump over if you want to. But this right here is a bruise on her thigh. This is the gash she had talked about where she fell back on the bed over her eye, that they had to get stitched up. That's kind of it. It looks like healing a little bit. And then there's some bruises you can see on her lower back, kind of on the left. And then on her upper shoulder, you can see those two little bruises there as well. So that's kind of what you're seeing. I mean, I'm glad that she started taking pictures. Good for her on that. Now, these next photos, these were taken by the special agent from Homeland Security who participated in the raid or helped with the searches related to his investigation, coordinated the logistics for his arrest in September in Manhattan. These are things that they found in the hotel. Bear in mind, before I get into this, you can see the one photo, but as we're looking at this, bear in mind that he went to New York specifically knowing he was getting arrested. He said that he was going to go up there in good faith to basically turn himself in, which they came and got him a day early, but to turn himself in essentially so he wouldn't have to, deal with it at his houses or anything like that. He would be right there in New York. That's why he said he went to New York, right? That's what he did. So knowing that the feds are coming for him, he's still doing this stuff. Somebody's correcting me saying that Gina doesn't have a kid with him. She got pregnant with him, I'm pretty sure, but maybe I'm wrong. I'll double check that. I could be wrong. So if it is, I'll check that. It's a lot. He's got a lot of kids. Let me check it real quick. Wait a second here. Sorry, guys. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Okay, she doesn't. They apparently. Okay, she had 2 pregnancies and allegedly Diddy pressured her to terminate both of those, offering her $50,000 to have an abortion during the. So I'm wrong. You're right. Gina's not correction. Gina does not have kids. It's not the youngest. It is Dana Tran. And Diddy pressured her for Gina pressured her to terminate both pregnancies, allegedly offering $50,000 to have an abortion during the first instance. Therefore, they do not share any children. And so you were right. I was wrong. Thank you. Yeah, she was pregnant. That's probably where I got it wrong. So thank you guys for correcting me, keeping me honest. Appreciate y'all. So anyways, that's what this is from. So basically, Yazin Binda is the one who testified last week as the Homeland Security agent. And so this is basically, she told police that they found moonlighting, baby oil, substances including ketamine and MDMA in his room. Is this the Ziploc bag one? So this is lubricants. You can see here. She talked about, I'm just going to show you this. So I don't have the Ziploc bags, but I'll tell you what they said. You can kind of see what we're dealing with here. That they had one Ziploc bag filled with Johnson's baby oil. Then another Ziploc bag was filled with Astroglide. That was in the hallway closet. And that was right before they got arrested. He had been in New York for 11 days prior to his arrest, and prosecutors said he was waiting potentially for his arrest. Apparently, he looked stressed when they were there. I'm sure they were. And then they also showed some more photos of freak-off supply. So these show how he was preparing for a hotel freak-off, despite knowing he was about to be arrested. That's what prosecutors say, that he was preparing for a hotel freak-off. And the shocking images were shown to jurors as Diddy's ex-girlfriend, Cassie, testified at his federal trial on Monday, after she previously alleged how she was coerced into a life of manipulation and abuse. Prosecutors brought up a set of images by law enforcement. These were all taken at the Park Hyatt Hotel in Midtown Manhattan on September, I think, 16th, 2024. So that is where these are. And again, you can see this. He's got the lighter, you've got the lubricants, you've got the pill bottles and other stuff. More Johnson's. He loves his baby oil. More powdery stuff. So these are the things that they were able to see. And yeah, just they were able to do. So, I mean, that's basically what we have for tonight. I know that it's not as in-depth as what we normally go into. And once I get back in town next week, this will go back into, of course, the 2-day updates, things like that. But right now, we're going to do once a day. And of course, obviously, if you find these updates valuable, make sure to follow on whichever platform you're watching. If you're watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and that your notification bells are on. And I'm going to go ahead and go enjoy the rest of my evening. And you guys have a great night as well. And I will see y'all tomorrow. Bye, everyone.